So here's the summary to court. First of all, the two brothers and their lawyer have 2 criminal files opened by the police in 2024. A couple of sections in the laws and arguments behind them, and facts and evidence. So first of all, they their lawyer is being sued for trying to evict from their home in Tel Aviv, and we are talking about actually a case of where he sued for to evict. So inheritance law, section 115 asserts a right to reside in the family's home. Eviction suit contradicts that section. Real estate law, sections 14 and 15, that protects the ownership and the possession and even the self-defense and self-defense against eviction. Penalty law 239, it's perjury, which the brothers have done. I'm saying it very easily. First of all, the judge concluded that the trust was a mistake. They agreed to give the money for self-management, which they didn't. That's perjury. They said that she's wasteful. That's perjury. They later on, they even said that she lives like a monk. You know, it doesn't make any sense. And they said that they're needy families. They just got something like 3.5 million each, and they live like oligarchs for many, many years. Penalty law 431, which is exploitation of a vulnerable person, forcing mute, paralyzed mother to sign legal documents. It just doesn't make any sense. It's also penalty law 301, negligent and aggravated murder, alleged linked to the mother's death and concealment of financial crimes, which, you know, they didn't want to give a caregiver. They elderly, which he poisoned his IDF team, he poisoned me, he poisoned his wife and institutionalized her and robbed 100,000 shekels from her tax returns, and he tried to opiate in a big quantity after hip replacement surgery in Israel. He tried to give force opiates on his mom. Murder, aggravated murder 301. Also, they sent terror, I mean, I call him a terrorist, to going around in the night. They paid him in cash from her account, going around in the night, sabotaged the building and put him in a life risk. And also attacked violently. Strict liability 486, 488. It also appears in the trust law, but it also appears in the penal law, which gives 3 years. Strict liability because they say theft of their assets and use it instead of acting for the beneficiary, they acted for themselves. And also made this claim to evict because they, you know, said that they're needy families, which, you know, you can't run a trust and say that you need the money. It just doesn't make any sense. 245 fraudulent acts. Guardianship law, we're talking about, you know, first of all, paragraph section 1 in the essence that you have to, you know, act for the beneficiary, which you can't. You know, if you're violent, it just doesn't make any sense. And they also took it, and you have strict liability here, and also paragraph 32. No, this is the guardianship law, not the trust law. Actually, so you have to work for the vulnerable person. It doesn't make any sense that she was capable even to sign at the time because she had the ALS. Power of attorney and breach of duty of care. You know, they would try to liquidate her assets and not giving her, you know, medical negligence on her. Trust law, paragraph 5 and 8. Trustee must act in loyalty. Bookkeeping They didn't do auditors, nothing like that. Money laundering laws, cash reduction law, FATCA and CIS. They claim to conceal bank operations, 2 years illegal cash withdrawals and transactions splitting. It's very easy to prove, because even if you don't have the bank data, according to the medical file, she was paralyzed, had ALS, but the bank was running and cash withdrawals were happening at the time. For 6 months, she before her death, she was completely paralyzed, mute, couldn't move her fingers. So I mean, this doesn't make any sense. Also, a flat in Elat, they showed in worth 4 times of what everything around it is. It doesn't make any sense. Suddenly it's 4 times more than it's any asset after they took the planes from there, the air base that was there. You can, and you have the bombardments of the Yemens there. It just doesn't make any sense. It's fraudulent and concealment of assets and cash and benefits that were taken. Addition, doctor in strict liability, victim compensation, court claim that we committed perjury, fraud, theft, exploitation, battering, attempted eviction, violating of multiple use, abuse in guardianship law. Background: first, the 2 brothers and the lawyer have 2 criminal. In the court case regarding the trust from inheritance, the judge claimed that the need of a trust is a mistake. The brothers agreed in court to enable her to control her asset, but they tried to open a bank account where they have access. They act against their promise is a felony of perjury. Moreover, the legal process, they expose another perjury that occurred at the time, which they drugged a mute, paralyzed woman to sign a ongoing power of attorney on herself, and you can see the data Jackson, where the neurologist says that she has ALS, complete dystopia, complete mute and paralyzed. And they said in court that she initiated, she made it, she wanted it, and it's science fiction, only telepathy, and it just doesn't make any sense. Which is a felony under section 431, which is extortion and misusing of the vulnerability of an elderly person. Relief requested. Release residents of right according to 115. Total remedies claimed are around 19.5 million, including 11 million value of the real estate that the young brother got from the 20 years ago from the parents. 6 million is the flat in Holon that the elder brother got from the parents. 920 the concealment liability, nursing home deposit and stuff like that. A lot property removal of them is about 500,000, let's say, more if you could say that they took money to renovate. Eviction demand, removal of that, and all the compensation for the plaintiff, and also giving all the inheritance that is belongs to her, and they're trying to make a trust out of it. Give it back. Compensation for plaintiff contribution. 20 years they lived with their parents. They were terminally ill. I aided, I helped them around, also in their house and taking care of their health. And in the office, I earn around 800 shekels per hour, which gives you about 4.5 billion. Compensation. Education work increased, father's business turnover, that was a big contribution. Institution for pre-estate robberies, 6 million is missing. Trust and guardianship violations, return over the hidden assets and all, which are as follows: deposit in the nursing home around 500,000 less, it might be 1 million anyway. Provident funds that they show to the court as if they are missing, which doesn't make any sense. He was afterwards he was an insurance agent. Rental income, which is missing, around 270,000. In essence, Platon seeks eviction of the 2 brothers from the properties, Elat, Holon, Fariona, restitution of all her inheritance compensation, which is about 3.5 billion. Also 6 million, which is missing, and her, volunteering with the terminally ill parents, according to 115, and right to reside in the home.